Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada. Om Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Asmadgurubhyo Namaha. Shrutismritipurananam alayam karunalayam namami bhagavatpadam shankaram lokashankaram shankaram shankaracharyam kesavam badharayanam sutra bhashyakritau vande bhagavantau punah punah Ishvaro gururatmeti murti bheda vibhagine vyomavatyapta dehaya dakshinamurtaye namaha Om Shri Medha Dakshina Swamine Namaha. Om Sahana Vavato Sahanau Bhunakto Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashadhyayinim Ambatva Manusandhadami Bhagavat Gite Bhavatveshinim Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्कपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थितदद्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुः सुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः. Once again, namaste to all of you.
Namaskaram, Guruji.
Namaskaram.
Namaskaram, Guruji.
Namaskaram. So, see, Pujya Swamiji, in his commentary, introduces this Bhagavad Gita teaching from a different standpoint. As we already seen, the subject matter of Gita Shastra is self-knowledge, Atma Jnana. And according to the Shastras, according to Upanishads, Atma Jnanam alone is the cause for removal of sorrow. Nothing else can remove sorrow. Any amount of karmas we do will not remove our sorrow, which is perennially flowing through the Jivatma. So he says, Pujya Swamiji says that the whole of Gita teaching is resolving the equation Tat Tvamasi. While the word Tvam, meaning you, refers to, in the case of here, the case of Bhagavad Gita, refers to Arjuna, but it can apply to any one of us. And this word is significant that the whole of Vedanta Shastra is nothing but Tattvamasi, unfolding Tattvamasi principle or unfoldment of this Tattvamasi teaching. So, what Pujya Swamiji, the way he looks at it is, the first 6 chapters of the Gita deals with this you, that is the Tvam aspect of Tattvamasi. What is you in the equation Tattvamasi? And it is when it is said Tat Tvamasi, you are that, means you are equated to that. And that has to be presented, and the meaning given is the Lord, Ishvara. So the Mahavakya Tattvamasi means that you are Ishvara. Of course, from a experiential point of view, or from our basically Vyavaharic point of view, there is a difference between you and the Lord. It is very obvious. But because of this statement, Tattvamasi, and it is an equation, Tat is equal to Tvam. Isn't it like any algebraic equation? It seems as though you are equated to the Lord. So the vision of the Shruti is that you are that Ishvara who is this cause for this entire creation. And that Brahman, who is the cause for the creation, you are. Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi, both meaning the same. So therefore, this Tattvamasi equation is a statement, a Vakya of this vision, the vision of the entire Vedanta. So as we have seen, there are two elements involved here. One is Ishvara, the Lord, which is the meaning of the word Tat. And the other is the Jiva, the individual, which is the meaning of the word Tvam, you. Okay. Unless the meaning of that you is properly understood, this equation cannot be understood, because apparently there is a contradiction. If the statement you are Brahman were to be a self-evident fact, suppose all of us know that we are Brahman, then there would be no necessity for this teaching at all, isn't it? However, there is a seeming contradiction between Jiva and Ishvara. And Upanishad after Upanishad contains so many Mahavakyas which are equating this Jiva and Ishvara. Therefore, there is a necessity for us to resolve it. Unless this contradiction is resolved, we cannot establish the identity, the sameness of Jiva and Ishvara. Therefore, what is the most important thing? The most important aspect is to recognize the real meaning of the word you, which in our case means I, right? Unless we do that, there is no way of discovering the identity between you and Ishvara that the Tattvamasi equation reveals. So therefore, the first 6 chapters of the Gita emphasize that you, explaining what that you means in terms of, in Tattvamasi, that Tvam, what is the meaning of that Tvam. And the next 6 chapters deal with Tat or that, the Lord, Ishvara. And the last 6 chapters deal with the identity between the two, the sameness between the two. Of course, this is a very, I would say, a rough division from Pujya Swamiji's point of view, even though we will find that this is not very strictly compartmentalized like this. But generally, the message of the first 6 chapter is definition of you from a Vedantic point of view. The second set of 6 chapters is definition of Ishvara from the scriptures point of view. And the last 6 chapters deal with the equation or resolution of the equation, the identity between Jiva and Ishvara. And in fact, when we as we proceed, we will find that when the 7th chapter starts, the whole subject matter changes. And also we will find that the last 6 chapters are significantly different from the first 12 chapters. So on this basis, Pujya Swamiji's view is another way of looking at Gita is resolution of this Mahavakya Tattvamasi. So this is just sort of a, I wanted to share with you how Pujya Swamiji looks at it. So in the last class, we were discussing the 12th shloka, right? Natvevaham jatu nasam na tvam neme janadhipah na chaiva na bhavishyamah sarve vayamatah param. And in the context of this sloka, we were seeing that Bhagavan Krishna takes three approaches to teach Arjuna in order to resolve both his incidental problem relating to the war, whether he should fight or not, and also his fundamental problem of samsara, which of course is the root cause for the incidental problem also. And the three approaches we saw was philosophical approach, ethical approach, and the worldly or laukika approach, in that order. And as I said, through the slokas 12 to 25, Bhagavan is outlining the solution from the philosophical standpoint. And in the last class, we were seeing a summary of the contents of these slokas based on the nature of Atma as explained in Tattva Bodha. Tattva Bodha is, for those who don't know, is a introductory text to Vedanta. It's called Prakarana Grantha. Very beautiful text, small text. So very nice book. Right? If you read Tattva Bodha, then lot of concepts of Vedanta will become very clear. So now coming back to our discussion on the philosophical approach of Bhagavan. The first point which he made was that Atma, the true self, is Nitya, permanent and eternal. And in that context, we discussed this. Atma is free from prag-abhavaha, which is prior non-existence, and pradvamsa abhavaha, posterior non-existence. So there was never a time when the Atma was not present, nor will there be any time when the Atma will not be present. Therefore, Atma is timeless and eternal. And therefore, Bhagavan says, hey Arjuna, if you understand this and view your own self, me, Krishna, or Bhishma, Drona, Duryodhana, etc., and all others, all other kings who are assembled here, from this standpoint, there is no reason to grieve because they are all indestructible self. That indestructible self will always be present, was present in the past, is present now as we know, and will continue to exist in the future also. So from the point of view of the reality, they are ashochyaha. There is no need. They are not to be grieved after, because what are you grieving for? You're not going to lose anything. That Atma is going to continue. And after having said this, or highlighted this, next started a description of the nature of Atma. And it was said that every individual is a conscious entity, which means that there is a consciousness in the body, mind, sense complex, which makes it sentient. It makes it a living being, this consciousness. And then we also saw that this consciousness actually is a separate entity. It's a formless entity. And to understand the formlessness, we understood with the example of the light principle. It is not light. We must not confuse, when we take an example of light principle, we must not confuse consciousness with light. But light is the nearest example we can quote or we can understand to understand what consciousness is. Because it's very difficult to understand what is formless. Light is formless, space is formless. So these are all examples quoted in the Shastra in order to make us understand what consciousness is. So the consciousness is comparable to the light principle. Then we said that this consciousness is not a part of the body. It is not a property of the body. And it is not even a product of the body. It is a separate entity which pervades and enlivens this body. And the third point we saw was that this separate entity called consciousness is not bound by the limitations of the body. Consciousness is not bound by spatial and time-wise limitations of the body. And after that, it was said that as long as the body is there, the consciousness is there in manifest form, manifest as sentiency, life, etc. in this body, mind, sense complex. When the body is removed, consciousness is still there, but it is not in a detectable form. It is not in a traceable form. And we saw that two words in Sanskrit, Vyakta Chaitanyam and Avyakta Chaitanyam. Vyakta Chaitanyam is when consciousness is in a traceable form. That is when when the body is sentient. We know that the sentiency is given or bestowed on the body by this consciousness. So we can identify the consciousness as the one which is causing the sentiency. Whereas when the body is gone, the consciousness Chaitanyam is still there, but it is unavyakta. It is not detectable. It is in a very formless form, as we can call it. Therefore, consciousness is always there in a vyakta form or in a avyakta form. And this consciousness is what is called Atma. And therefore, if consciousness is Atma, this body-mind complex, and for that matter, everything else in this universe is called Anatma. And from this, we understood that every individual is a mixture of Atma and Anatma. Now, does this mean that we ignore the body, this Anatma? Anatma is not important. All Vedanta is talking only about Atma, so I don't care about the body. That is not the right approach. That is not the right understanding. Because without Anatma, this body, mind, sense complex, first of all, the spiritual journey is not possible. Secondly, it is through this Anatma that the consciousness, which is Atma, manifests itself. So if we have to understand that consciousness is there, which is otherwise avyaktam, we need to preserve this body, mind, sense complex very well. Because this is a very important instrument for us to undertake the spiritual pursuit, to eventually reach a full understanding of what that consciousness or Atma is. Therefore, this Anatma also is equally important. We must not neglect this Anatma, this body, mind, sense complex. All that the spiritual sadhana does, or it consists of, is shifting our identification from the perishable Anatma to the imperishable Atma. This is the whole aim of spiritual sadhana, and which is a cognitive journey, which is a journey which is happening in our intellect. It is not a physical journey. It's a journey from mortality to immortality. Mrityorma amritam gamaya. That is the journey. But here also we have to be very careful in understanding. When we say it's a journey from mortality to immortality, actually there is no going from mortality to immortality. Mortality to immortality only means shifting our identification with the mortal body to identification with the immortal I. Because a mortal body cannot become immortal. Therefore, what is emphasized is a shift in our attitude. That shift in identification has to take place. Just like the body cannot become immortal, the Atma also cannot become mortal. In fact, Atma also cannot become immortal also, isn't it? Because Atma is already immortal. So it need not become immortal. Therefore, body is mortal, cannot become immortal. Atma is immortal, it need not become immortal. What then has to be done for this mrityorma amritam gamaya? Only shifting of our identification, the I sense, from this mortal body to the immortal self. And that is what is the spiritual sadhana is all about. And it is this Atma, this consciousness which Krishna is talking about. So this philosophical approach is discovering that Arjuna is none other than the Atma Swarupam. Similarly, Bhishma, Drona, they are all Atma only. And Krishna will point out as we go forward that the Atma, which is Chaitanya Swarupam of the nature, that is of the nature of consciousness, is neither a karta nor a bhokta. Therefore, there is no question of anybody killing or anybody being killed. I think we saw that in the last class itself, if I'm not wrong. And next, Krishna points out that this consciousness is not bound by limitations of the body. And after that, only this discussion on akarta, abhokta comes rather. The Atma does not do any action, nor is it an enjoyer of the results of any action. And the logic also we saw, any action requires motion, it requires space for the action to take place. And anything, any motion requires a limitation. Unless one thing is limited, an entity is limited, they cannot move. An unlimited entity cannot move because there is no space to move. And Atma being limitless, Krishna says Atma cannot do any action. Therefore, it is akarta. And whatever is akarta is abhokta. Abhokta here means free from the result of action. Because karta alone will reap the karma phalam. This also we saw. Then the next point Krishna emphasizes is Atma is nirvikaraha. This is all, you must remember, this is a summary of what is going to come. I'm just sort of familiarizing you with all the sloka so that when we go through the sloka, these basic principles we can take it, we can understand easily and then see what other things, meanings or messages we can derive from those slokas. So Atma is nirvikaraha. Nirvikaraha means free from all modification, changes, etc. Again, we have to recall the light example. When I said when the hand is moving, the light does not move along with the hand, right? The hand moves and we continue to see the hand because the light is here, light is here, light is everywhere when the hand is moving. That's why we continue to see the hand. So the light does not undergo any change. And even when the hand becomes dirty, light does not become dirty. So it does not have any sangatvam. Hand may get bloodied because of some wound, but light does not become so. Therefore, all changes can belong to the reflecting medium and not to the light. Similarly, the body goes through modifications. We have seen the Shad Vikara in Tattva Bodha, Asti, Jayate, Vardate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyate, etc. All these six. Krishna here puts it in a simple form. He says childhood state, boyhood state, youth and old age. In fact, he talks about only three. boyhood, youth, and old age, but we can include childhood also, because from childhood to boyhood is a significant change or modification takes place. So the body undergoes through these 4 stages, and in each stage there is a change, there is a modification from the previous stage. But the Atma does not have all these modifications. Therefore, the Atma is called Nirvikaraha. After that, the 4th feature Krishna will talk about is Sarvagataha. Sarvagataha means all pervading. All pervading means that which does not have boundaries, spatial boundaries, temporal boundaries. Again, remember the example of light. There are boundaries for the hand, but the light goes beyond those boundaries. Therefore, Sarvagataha, Sarvavyapi, etc. He will talk about, Krishna will talk about. And finally, and most importantly, Krishna says that this Atma you can never see. It is never seen because this Atma is the very seer. I, the consciousness principle, is the seer. It's a Sakshi. It is ever the subject, and therefore it is never the object. The Vishnu Sahasranamam students who are here we can recall. We saw a Nama Aprameya, and I explained what that Aprameya also in one class I took. Prameya means object of knowledge. That which can be objectified is called Prameya. Aprameya means not the object but the subject. Ever the experiencer, and never the experienced object. And there are a lot of examples. For example, eyes can see everything except the eyes themselves. The seer cannot be seen. Our hand, the skin can touch everything, but it cannot touch itself. Our phone, and this example Swami Paramathananda gives, this phone can ring up all numbers except our own number. We can't dial our number from our phone, isn't it? And another example is camera. Camera will take the picture of everything, but it will never be there in the picture. But even though a camera is not there in the picture, we don't require a proof for its existence of the camera. The moment we see a picture, we know that without a camera, that picture will not be existing. Even though we never see the camera, we have never, what type of camera also we don't know. Similarly, the person who is taking the picture, he cannot be present in the picture because he is the seer of the image. So he himself cannot be present. Of course, don't tell me that we have got cameras where you can actually set it up for a timer and all that. But there also, the person who is setting it up becomes a seer for some moment, and then he also becomes an object of that camera. Camera is actually become the seer. Camera can never ever appear in a picture unless it's a reflection. So therefore, the camera or the subject can never be the object, right? Seer can never be the seen. Experiencer can never be the experience. Therefore, I, the Atma, am ever the subject and never the object. Thus, Krishna defines Atma as Aprameyaha, Nityaha, Nirvikaraha, Sarvagataha, Akarta, Abhokta. All these definitions he gives. It is ever the experiencer, never the experienced. It is eternal. It is changeless. It is all pervading. It is not a doer. It is not an enjoyer of the results of action. And all this is the essence of Atma Vidya. What is this Atma? Knowledge of that Atma, knowledge of our real self, which is presented between the 12th and 25th shloka. Of course, normally what people will do, the modern management approach, is pick the low-hanging fruits, isn't it? Those who have got a management background will understand this phrase. Pick the low-hanging fruits, where the team will be enthused by that. Leave the tough to a later stage, tough things to be done. But then here in the Gita, it starts with the toughest topic, which is condensation of the teaching of all the Upanishads, which is what I just now defined. So Krishna starts with the toughest topic, philosophical approach, the Upanishadic approach. But then, of course, as I said afterwards, Krishna comes down to the ethical standpoint or the dharmic standpoint, and finally to the Laukika standpoint, that's a worldly standpoint. But the philosophical approach is the central theme of the entire Gita teaching, is known by the fact that this topic of Atma Vidya, Bhagavan Krishna keeps on repeating it again and again in later chapters also. And through this argument, what Krishna is conveying is, hey Arjuna, your question is that by killing all these people, you will suffer and you will have a lot of grief and then your whole life will be tainted with their blood, etc. Understand that you are not killing Bhishma the Atma. You are not killing Drona the Atma. Therefore, Bhishma is not killed, Drona is not killed, and therefore, why do you worry about the death of Bhishma, death of Drona, etc.? Because none of them is killed. Even after the fall of their bodies, they will continue to survive because Atma is eternal and has no death. And it is not only that Bhishma and Drona are not killed, you are not a killer also, because Arjuna, you as Atma is Akarta. Therefore, you cannot do any action, including killing anyone. So what is the conclusion? Arjuna, the Atma, is not the killer. Bhishma, the Atma, is not killed. Drona, the Atma, is not killed. Why are you crying, Arjuna, is what Krishna is asking. So this is the philosophical argument. And when we hear this argument, certainly we will be disturbed. We'll say, what is this? I mean, it's all seem very, very convenient argument, isn't it? Every criminal who kills people, he can go to the court and argue, I am Atma, so I am not the killer. And the one who has been killed has not even been killed because he is also Atma, which has no death. So therefore, he will ask the judge, on what basis you are going to punish me? Nobody is killed and I am not the killer. So the judge has got a background of Vedanta. If he's a clever judge, he will accept this argument. He will say, absolutely right. You as Atma are not the killer. The person who was killed as Atma has actually not died. I understand Atma is eternal. But why do you think that I am going to punish Atma? I am not going to punish Atma and all. The death sentence which I will give is only to the Anatma. The Anatma in which you, Atma, is temporarily residing now. I am going to punish only your body, mind, sense complex, which is Anatma. That you cannot stop me from punishing. And since you are a Vedantin, you have already disidentified yourself from your body, mind, sense complex, and you fully understand that you are Atma and the person who was killed is also Atma, you should have no grief if I am going to punish by a death sentence your body, mind, sense complex. So this will be what a clever judge will do. He will say, I am not saying that you are a karta, you are a killer. I understand you as Atma is a karta, but your anatma is a karta. Your body, mind, sense complex is a karta. So I will punish only your anatma. Your atma, which is your true self, I am not going to punish. This is what a clever judge will tell that killer. So we don't need to worry whether this argument can be taken in any court of law or not. There is an answer for that also. But having said that, Krishna knows that this philosophical argument is very difficult for anyone to digest in the beginning. But just by some 10-15 slokas, it is not easy for a person to rise to that level in the beginning itself. Even though it is necessary to get this knowledge, what exactly is this Tattvamasi, Aham Brahmasmi is about, gain that knowledge, keep it aside. This Krishna knows, and this is the beauty of the entire teaching methodology of Krishna rather. Therefore, he goes from the philosophical angle to the ethical angle. Krishna says, don't bother about Atma for the present. We will come to that later. Let us assume that we are all individuals. Let us look at it from an ethical or a dharmic drishti, dharmic angle. The philosophical angle was adhyatmika drishti. The second Krishna employs is dharmika drishti. He says, hey Arjuna, if you have not understood, or even if you don't believe about this consciousness, Atma, etc., it is still proper for you to fight this war, because for the sake of dharma, a kshatriya must be ready to give up his life. That is his swadharma. For the sake of dharma, a kshatriya should be ready to take to war if all other doors are closed, because Sama, Gana, Veda, Danda, that Shastra talks about, Dharma Shastra talks about conflict resolution procedure. The Danda, the war or a fight or punishment is the last course. But if it comes to that, a Kshatriya should not flinch from that. He should take to war. So therefore, Krishna says, hey Arjuna, not only from a philosophical angle, but also from the ethical angle, you need not worry. Because normally, killing is himsa, I agree. What you said, killing is a papam, I agree. But you as a Kshatriya should worry, you should not worry about hurting or killing other people, because you are not hurting for the sake of hurting. You are not killing for the sake of killing. When they all becomes himsa is when that is carried out for the sake of that, for the sake of hurting, for the sake of killing. You kill somebody, you hurt somebody, that becomes himsa. Whereas in this case, you yourself have said that these people who are there are all durbuddhehe. They are all atatayinaha. Therefore, these people are adharmic people. They have led their life in adharmic way. And if they continue to survive in this, with their same attitudes, there will be more and more adharma only will be spreading in this entire world, entire universe. Therefore, for the purpose of dharma samsthapanam, you have to fight these people and you have to kill these people. It is exactly like a judge giving a capital punishment. Judge does not give capital punishment to a criminal because he feels, oh, this criminal, he did not live here. I can just, for the sake of it, gives me pleasure to give a capital punishment. In fact, no judge wants to give, likes to give capital punishment. That's why in many countries, capital punishment is abolished. We know how precious the life is and how this life has been given by Bhagawad. It's not only life, even our body, mind, sense complex is given by Bhagavan only. It's a creation of this Ishvara only. Nobody has got a right to take away any other life or any other, destroy any other body. If at all there is a right, that right has been given by Dharma Shastra to certain people for certain purposes. And that is what ethics is all about. Therefore, he says from ethical angle also, Arjuna, you can go and fight. So from philosophical angle, you can and you should fight. From ethical angle also, you can and you should fight. And suppose if you are not convinced with both of these, Arjuna, let us come down one more step further. You will say, I don't believe in ethics, even though you may not say so, but some people may say, because here Arjuna is a nimitta for all of us. Arjuna is well versed in Dharma Shastra, so he may not say, but many of us know nothing about Dharma. So we may say, I don't believe in Dharma and all that. So here Krishna is addressing all of us through Arjuna. So he says, you may not believe in Dharma, Adharma, etc. You may not believe in Punyam, Papam, etc. Let us leave that aside. But as long as you are in the society, aren't you conscious of your self-esteem, your social status, how other people think of you? In fact, is this not the most practical angle for all of us? Most of the time, in fact, almost all the time, what is our thought process? What will others think of me? If I do this, what will happen to my social status? This what others will think of me is the basic reason for all our sorrow and grief. And all that we keep on doing, which is what I can call it, the basic cause for the samsara, this bhavaroga, the life of becoming. What others will think of us, what others will think of me. We do so many things just because we have worn, let us say, one dress for one party, and we are invited to another party, and most of the people are going to be common people. We will want to go in a different dress. Why? Our argument, if I go in the same dress, what others will think? This fellow has got only one dress or what? What others will think of me? And even when we are uncomfortable, we may within our mind hate doing certain things, but we still do those uncomfortable things because our question is what others will think of me. Coming to the dress example again, we sometimes wear the most uncomfortable dresses, like going to a marriage in peak summer in India in a three-piece suit and a tie. Fellow will be sweating inside, the whole inner wear will be fully wet, but he will still want to wear a suit, tie and all, because what others will think of me. This is the occasion to wear the suit. I cannot just go in an ordinary shirt and a pant. Or ladies, peak summer, they will go in a very decked Kanchipuram silk saree with lot of golden ornaments here, there and all that. Completely uncomfortable. They will be waiting to change the dress, but they will not do it as long as the marriage function is going on, because they want to be seen by others like that. Because if they will think, if I wear a simple sari, cotton sari, what others will think of me? This others will think of me is a very important aspect from the Laukika point of view, Arjuna, and I am sure you are not an exception. So from this standpoint, also Krishna says, you should be bothered about your name and fame and self-respect, social status, etc. So even from that Laukika Drishti also, you have to fight this war. If you run away from here, what people will think, what others will think of you, you will get a bad name. People will say, oh, Arjuna, oh, he was big things. People say, he was a great warrior and all, but when he actually faced the real war, the Kurukshetra war, he ran away from the field. You will lose your honor. Coming generation will keep on cursing you. Nobody will take Arjuna as an example for valor, for courage. So, from that angle also, Arjuna, just to protect your honor, to protect the honor of your entire brothers, you have to fight this war. So these are the three angles. First, we are dealing with the philosophical angle from 12 to 25. Okay. So in the 12th verse, which we are seeing, in the context of which I explained all these things, Krishna points out that Atma is Nitya. This is the essence of the 12th verse. Atma is Nitya. Nitya means eternal. And he defines this word eternal in a very cryptic way. He says this Atma was in the past, in the present, and will be there in the future. This is the simple way we can understand what Krishna wants to say, even though he says it in a different language. I'll come to that. So, yat trikale api tishtati, that which exists in all three periods of time, is Atma. This is the essence of the 12th verse. But he does not say it in a simple manner, as I said. He says this in a very roundabout way. One of the reasons could be Krishna is known for his mischief. Many times, people have got this, they will post some what that called, what is it called? Some quiz kind of a thing, for other people to guess what it is. So he uses double negatives. He says, you cannot say that all of us were not present in the past. And you cannot say that all of us will not be present in the future. He could have simply said, as Atma, all of us existed in the past. And as Atma, all of us will exist in the future. But he says, Aham jatuna asam iti na. Atma was not there in the past. It cannot be said. It is not true. Tvam jatu na asi iti na. You, the Atma, was not there in the past. It cannot be said. It is not true. Similarly, ime janadipahe jatuna asan iti na. These kings were not there in the past, also cannot be said. That is also not true. So in all these statements, he uses double negatives. Two nas are there. Then what about future? Again he says, Natu eva bhayam sarve ataf param cha na bhavishyamaha iti na eva. Two nas he puts. All of us will not be there in the future. It cannot be said. It is not true. So all these are double negatives. Instead of saying it very simply, that we all existed in the past and all of us will exist in the future. And of course, Krishna need not talk about the present because we know that we are existing. Otherwise, the talk itself will not take place, right? There's no doubt about it. Because we have a doubt about the past and future only, because that's a question many people ask, what will happen after death, like that. So future, always people are worried. So Krishna says, he is emphasizing the past and the future, Atma existed. Therefore, what is the essence? Atma is eternal. So, question arises for some people, why did Krishna choose to say this simple message in such a convoluted way? Now, of course, no Acharya talks about it except Paramatmananda says that Krishna is known for his mischief, so he is trying to play with the words. But there could be another reason for this sloka to be composed by Vyasacharya in this manner. Even though I said I have not come across any Acharya, including Pujya Swamiji, who has talked about this reason. I'll just share my thoughts on that. Well, at the first read, this sloka seems to be confusing. And one will need to think it through to understand what it means. And the reason is this. Well, according to the story behind the writing of this Mahabharata epic, it is said that Maharishi Vyasacharya wanted to compose the slokas continuously. And he was looking out for somebody who could write down the slokas so fast as to keep pace with the speed of Vyasacharya in composing the slokas. But he could not find anybody. So finally, it seems Lord Ganesha seems to have accepted this challenge. And it is said that he broke his tusk to write the Mahabharata slokas. That's why he is Ekadanta. But it seems, it is said that Lord Ganesha stipulated one condition to Vyasacharya. And that was that Vyasacharya should continue to compose the slokas without any break. And even if he pauses for a moment to think up of the next sloka, Ganesh, this contract is over, Ganesha will quit. Sorry. Vyasacharya accepted this condition. But he put a counter condition to Ganesha. He said, I will continue to compose these slokas, but on your part, Ganesha, you will need to write the slokas after understanding the meaning of the sloka. So only after you understand, you should write the sloka. Ganesha accepted this condition. Therefore, it is said that Vyasacharya would compose some difficult shlokas in between. And when Ganesha would be trying to understand the meaning, Vyasacharya will gain some time to compose the next shloka. And such shlokas are found in Mahabharata, and they are called Vishama Vritti. They are a little difficult to understand. So it will require 2-3 readings to understand what the shloka says. So the reason why Vyasacharya, otherwise Mahabharata are very simple slokas, easy to understand. So that is what the tradition gives this reason for those kind of slokas in Mahabharata. And I thought that probably this one sloka, the 12th sloka, also could be one of such slokas. Okay. So that was aside. So when Lord Krishna says that you, Arjuna, in the real sense is Atma, the consciousness principle, that I am Atma, that Bhishma is Atma, and Drona is Atma, and everyone is, all other kings here are all Atma, one may gain an understanding that there are so many Atmas, and that each individual is a separate Atma. And this is what happens, or what has happened with Dvaitam and Vishishta Advaitam people. This is the way they have understood this Atma without referring to what is the message of the Upanishads. That is where they have gone wrong. Or some of them have taken some select portions from Upanishads and quote them and say this is where Upanishads say they are all separate Atmas. And Bhagavad Bhashyakara, remember Adi Shankara, in his commentary makes a very important observation in his Bhashyam on this sloka, that the plurality talked about in this sloka is with reference to the various bodies and not with reference to the one Atma, the self. The people standing before Krishna, Arjuna, all have got different bodies. It's all Nama Rupatmakam. They have got a name and form. It is only from the standpoint of the physical bodies there is plurality, not from the standpoint of their inner essence, the Atma. So there are no differences in Atma. Atmas are not many. There is only one Atma. And the illustration given in the Shastra for this is that of a garland of beads. Even though there is a number of beads in a garland, distinctly different from each other, it is a single thread which binds all of them together, which pervades in and through each bead. Similarly, even though the physical entities in this universe are numerous, it is one Atma, one consciousness principle which pervades in and through each individual. And this is a very important point which needs to be understood very, very clearly. Because this is the teaching of the Upanishads, and this is where Advaita Vedanta Siddhanta differs from all other Siddhantas and all other Darshanas. And next verse, Krishna provides an example to help Arjuna how Atma is always the same and it never changes. And he says this is understood by the wise men, and therefore for this reason also, Arjuna, you should not get deluded, you should not grieve. I will just chant the sloka, meanings and all, we will see in the next class. Okay. Dehinosmin yata dehe Kaumaram Yauvananjara Tatha Dehantaraf Praptihi Tatra Dhiras Tatra Namuhyate. I repeat it again, made mistakes, I'm sorry. Dehinosmin yata dehe Kaumaram Yauvananjara Tata Dehantaraf Praptihi Dhiras Tatra Namuhyate. So Anvaya is Yata Dehinaha Asmin Dehe Kaumaram Yauvanam Jara Tata Dehantara Praptihi Tatra Dhirahana Muhyati. This is the Anvaya. The meanings and explanations of this sloka we will see in the next class. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidhav Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you. Namaskaram.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mama.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji. Namo Namaha.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you.
Let us pray
Namaste,
that
Guruji.
Sorry.
let us pray let the war between Russia and Ukraine will come to a stop soon.
Yeah. Let us hope so. Let us pray. Yeah.
No,
Otherwise, it could have very lot of repercussions globally. Rather. That is true.
absolutely. Both are beautiful places.
Both
I
of
hope it.
cases, yeah. So, but as I was saying to my wife, my wife asked, what is this? See, human ambition is always there, territorial expansion is what every human
It's more of greediness, not anything else. Being
That's
greedy.
all. It stems
That's
from greed only. It stems
nothing
from
else.
greed. More and
Nothing
more
else.
you want, you want to accumulate more and more, and you're not happy with, contented with what you have. So this happens.
People don't learn any lesson from Hitler.
Yeah, yeah. No, friend, nobody. Why Hitler? So many others are there. They don't know. Anyhow, good. Any questions?
Thank you, Guru. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Guruji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So no questions it seems today. If there are no questions, then I can close the session with your permission. Okay, right. No raised hands. So Hari Om. Thank you very much, all of you. See you next Saturday. Vishnu Sahasrama students, we'll see tomorrow.